Using technology in the classroom can be a very daunting and maybe overwhelming experience if you've never done it before as a teacher, but the positive impacts that it has on student behavior and student achievement far outweigh any classroom management issues that might arise or you might be wary of when starting using technology. My first and main piece of advice that I would recommend for new teachers using technology for the first time is to have very clear classroom expectations and consequences for students using technology. So that can range from when students walk into the classroom, if they're using the iPods or not using the iPods in class, what does that look like? What does that sound like? If students are finished early, what does that look like? What does that sound like? If iPods need to be charged, what does that look like? What does it sound like? And then as a teacher, being very clear in handling and maintaining those high expectations with all of your students.
I assign my students numbers. That way each student has a specific number, so if one goes missing from one class to the next, I know exactly who to look up and call that classroom and make sure they didn't walk out with it. And I have the students, for the most part, partner up with the person they're sitting next to. That way there's one student going and grabbing like 2 pieces of technology from wherever they're stored. I don't want to waste any class time. I just set the expectation that the technology needs to be picked up before the bell rings, and I put that on the pairs to sort out. That way there's no like end of class early, I need to go put it away, or lingering, or you maximize the time you have in class. Just set the expectation it's in your desk before the bell rings, and you don't put it away until after the bell rings.
They grab their iPod, they come in, they sit down. Students leave the iPods on the corner of the desk unless they are explicitly told by me to grab the iPod and log on to Exit Ticket to complete a check for understanding or whatever it may be. When students are done at the end of the day, when they walk out, they drop their iPod in the same cubby number that they grabbed it from, so that way I can easily visually check that all iPods are accounted for. I also am very clear in my messaging for students between periods, saying if you see something that is wrong with your iPod, that you let me know about it right away.
If it's next to the door, then a student very easily can just grab one as they walk out, and you won't see them. If it's far away from the door, then they would have to grab it and walk all the way across the classroom, and probably won't get away with it. With Chromebooks, they're a little bit larger, so when they're not being used, I would have the students actually put them in their backpack or underneath on the baskets in their desk, but I personally prefer having them put them in the backpack. That way they're not kicked by the person behind them or accidentally fall out. I just remind them that this technology needs to be respected and we need to keep it safe. That way we can continue to use it throughout the year.
With iPods, or internet-capable devices, students can surf the web, they can check their email, they can text, they can do a variety of things that you don't really want them to do in the classroom. And my simplest solution to this problem is making sure that students are using technology only at certain times when they should be using the technology. So when students come in, they grab their iPod and they leave it face down on the corner of their desk, and they only ever grab or use the iPod when I explicitly tell them, okay, log on to Exit Ticket, we're going to complete a 5-question ticket on under the content that we just covered recently.
By using the teacher view or the classroom view, you can see when students have clicked in and when they haven't. So if a student there's like 2 or 3 students who haven't clicked in yet and you can see their name on the teacher view, you can walk around and see what they're actually doing. They know that you know when they haven't answered, which means that during those times when they're supposed to be answering, you are going to hold them accountable for answering that question. Having very explicit parts of your lesson plan when the technology is being used. That way, there's no reason for the technology to be on their desk when you're not using it. So if you're teaching a lesson and you see the technology out on a desk, then you can tell them to put it away because this is not the time. One system I can recommend for making sure that the devices are charged is teaching your last period class of the day how to plug them in appropriately. That's one way. Another way would be finding 2 or 3 students that you can get to plug in all of the devices at the end of the day, every single day. Again, if they're from your last period class, then you can just hold them after for 2-3 minutes for them to plug them all in. Just getting someone else to do that for you will make your job a lot easier.